Thank everyone for their attendance. Look forward to another great meeting. We'll start with the Patriotic Festival Wounded Warrior Week, and I'm going to ask John Earn if he would be kind enough to make the introductions because you've been so active in this.
Well, I'll be kind, Mr. Mayor. Actually, I'm going to turn it straight over to Jeff Hill with the USO. Jeff and Mike Eason had approached me, I think, 5 years ago about really growing this week and honoring our wounded and injured veterans. I think last year we hosted 530 wounded veterans and their family, and I think we're going to have a number that's going to far surpass that from what we did this past year. And I'd asked the council a few weeks ago if they'd mind if we just gave a brief summary of what we did.
We're glad. Also, you got Ira behind you there.
Ira, I'm sorry, and Ira's here. Ira's been instrumental in terms of hosting them and showing these men and women a great time. So, thank you, Ira. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you, John, and Mayor.
Glad to have you here, my friend.
Well, thank you, sir.
And Ira, too.
Mayor, it's good to have you, that you survived the jump, so.
Yeah,
so.
I survived.
And again, I can't thank the city and the council enough, and all the members, and especially like Julie Hill and Anya, that really, stepped up to the plate this year and really provided a huge amount of help for us. So we know we couldn't do it without the city, and which makes the city special. So John was right. We exceeded, for U.S. soldiers and their families, military members and their families, we exceeded 600 this year. But of course, anybody that paid attention to it, we had our Danish allies involved this year also. So we had 52 total came from Denmark, about 30 which were the wounded, ill, and injured. And what's neat is they're gonna start to try to do their own Warrior Week here at the end of August. I just got invited to it last night. So, but they've already said they definitely want to come back, and we're also going to explore the rest of NATO next year. But this year, I think we did a good job expanding it, making it even better, and adding the NATO element and the cameos on the parachuting this year. I think was wonderful. So without me rattling on and doing a PowerPoint brief, Julie and Anya put an amazing video together. So I'd just like to show that, if that's okay. The USO Warrior Week is something that we put together 4 years ago. The mayor and the city council approached me and they asked if the USO could start doing more for the wounded, ill, and injured and the military here in Virginia Beach. Well, this week we brought together 8 different nonprofits that do primarily outdoor recreational activities for the men and women.
This is our 9th year of doing the Wave Warriors Camp. We have injured warriors from all over. It's amazing. Some of them come in a little hesitant, this kind of thing. Once we get them in the water, you're seeing today a lot of them standing up, sometimes on their first try, and they are just on cloud 9. It really is an amazing day.
Oh, I was just having a blast out there catching them waves, doing the race car, who was that, the Coffin Man, and trying to stand up on my one leg, but that was kind of difficult.
The water's a little cold, but the sun is nice and hot, so you come out, you're warmed up like that, ready to go back in.
The veterans that are out today will be interacting with our instructors through a trail ride as well as a hay ride. It's a great opportunity for both the families and the riders to interact with the equine community and for us to give back to those that help serve us.
When you ride the horse, you're not thinking about anything else. So you're just thinking about on the horse, so there's an element of just being detached from when you were hurt.
Warrior Week is a wonderful opportunity to give back to the families that have given so much to us. It's an opportunity for them to have a day full of fun, take their mind off some of the things that keep them busy on a daily basis.
We provide free days of kayak fishing to wounded, injured, and ill vets in the area. they've provided a service to our country as volunteers, and we want to make sure that we provide them every opportunity to regain their lives that they had prior to their service.
We have jumped blind wounded warriors, we have jumped triple amputees, quadruple amputees, burned wounded warriors. To take all these individuals and throw them out of an airplane, it's a pretty amazing thing. And to see the impact of that, for a lot of these warriors, you know, it really is the spark that they needed to recognize that their life is not over, that despite their injury, they can still get out and live an amazing life. And that's what Jumping for a Purpose is about. I tell them it is about living greatly, it is about overcoming.
The opportunity isn't so much going skydiving for me. The opportunity ends up being, I get to be at the heart of all these people. There's supposed to be 30 to 50,000 people there just tonight. And tonight's not even the big night. And that's just people who want to come out and have a good time, show their American pride, show their support for their armed forces. And I'm just honored and proud to be part of it and be, you know, reminded constantly that I love this country and what I fought for.
We're trying to break down the barriers for people with disabilities. We do that by using specialized equipment and specialized techniques, and all of our instructors have been specially trained and certified by USA Water Ski.
I was able to do a little bit of adaptive water skiing. It was my first time out on the water like this. It was very exciting. I'm glad these guys were out here to give us the opportunity.
Serving the country is such an important calling, and so the ability to give back to them, the opportunity to do that, we just really appreciate that, and it's very near to our hearts.
Project Hero is it's a fantastic cycling program for the wounded, ill, and injured. They started at the Vice President's house on Memorial Day, and they've been riding bicycles down through Fredericksburg, Richmond, Williamsburg, and they're going to finish up here in Virginia Beach.
I definitely think offering adaptive sports is a great opportunity for people. After my disability, I was initially very worried about my future. Seeing adaptive sports and seeing the positivity that can come from that definitely helped mentally for me.
Today, I'm getting ready to go on a boating trip, and hopefully I'll catch a big fish.
This particular event uses the fishing trip as the mechanism to get all these individuals together. All of the service members that have incurred some kind of injury in the line of duty and for the country, you know, need a break from the day-to-day, you know, routine of the therapy that they are undergoing.
We have the privilege of working with, I think, 30 to 40 Danish wounded warriors. So the Danes have really coupled up with the USO to try to reinvigorate their wounded warrior program similar to ours.
They're our brothers in arms. They got injured fighting side by side with American soldiers, so we want to do anything we can do with the healing process with them also.
I think it's awesome that even if you're missing both legs, you can actually have the opportunity to have some time on a surfboard. This is great that you go out of your comfort zone and you get to try things that you normally might never consider trying.
When I see these guys, the smile on their faces, it gives me energy to keep on helping them doing this.
They're trying to pick out the good things that we've been doing and try to implement it back with their folks back at home.
It's a great experience. I'm glad that we have the volunteers to participate in events like this. It's a great help for everyone.
It's better than good, amazing.
To have someone that can say, come on down, we not only will take care of your lodging, we'll feed you, and then we'll let you go out here and try something amazing, something that might quite literally change your perspective on life. It's amazing.
More than anything, it's the camaraderie, the having your brothers and sisters be a part of your struggle and seeing, and they understand what you're dealing with.
Just the caliber of people that you come to know at these events is insurmountable.
I think oftentimes people think, oh man, a wounded warrior, you know, they're probably damaged, they're fragile, they're this, they're that, whatever they think in their mind. Oftentimes we crush that stereotype and they realize that these individuals with their scars and injuries and things they have are incredibly motivating and just all about overcoming and driving forward and setting the example and making a difference not only in their own lives but in the lives of others. So Warrior Week is this amazing opportunity to bring them together with, you know, tens of thousands of people that come in to watch these concerts and enjoy the beach, and you know, now you have this added component where you get to see these amazing young men and women who are doing these incredible things.
So anyway, I think that says it all. So it's a thank goodness it's a good news story again this year, and hopefully you'll invite us back next year. You know, it's we'll be talking to everybody about ways we can tweak it, make it better. But I think we made another big step this year, and thank you very much. One of the greatest cities in the world. I've been all over the place, and I just love it here. And you guys keep giving back and doing more than any other city that I've ever seen throughout the globe. And thank you very much for everything.
Well, Jeff, we want to thank you. John Earn has been there from the very beginning on this thing. And I think, Council, if you remember when I came back the Tuesday after that weekend, I said, I've never been more proud of our city. And I think that is evidence of the reason why I made that comment. Because I think this isn't something we're just doing to be doing, it's something we really care. And we love the military and the sacrifices that some of you have made, and then also to have the ability of so many of our neighbors being in the military too. So it's an honor. John?
Yeah, or Mr. Mayor, if I could, I know, and Jeff, that was way better than a PowerPoint, so we could.
It's Julie and Anya that did it. I mean, it's your own in-home team.
Y'all did a nice job, but I did want to point out, with Ira being here, that they end up actually hosting an entire chalet for these warriors. So they go and they do all this neat stuff during the day, but in the afternoon and the evenings, they've got some world-class concerts that they go to, and they get feted and fed, and they're right there with the other concerts. So it's really a great experience for the whole weekend for these warriors.
No question.
I want to thank you too, Ira.
Thank you, Ira. Thanks to all of y'all who helped make it happen. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to short-term rentals. Philip J. Kellum, let me see you beat what we just had.
What a great expression of community, and what a wonderful weekend that was.
It was.
It really was, and that's everybody pitching in. Thanks, folks. I appreciate the opportunity to come back to you and give you a little bit of an update of where we are along the process. Last week, you passed an ordinance to bring us in line with the actions of the General Assembly on the registration requirements for folks that are offering their properties for short-term rental over the internet and otherwise. And that was one step in this process that I think will probably evolve over the next several months. But the thing specifically I wanted to report on today was a report that we received from Old Dominion University. Is there a PowerPoint for this?
I don't know.
We don't need it. We don't need it if you have your hard copies. Would you prefer we just go from the hard copies? Yes.
We got the hard copy right in front.
Okay, good. You should have a hard copy of the 4-page PowerPoint, and then there's a 41-page double-space that I am not going through, but the PowerPoint will sum it up for you. But I'm prepared to respond on questions you may have out of that 41-pager. That report was prepared by Drs. Argawal, Dr. Cook, and Dr. McNabb at Old Dominion, and they were very helpful. We both had a kind of an evolutionary understanding of, they had an understanding of air compliance efforts, and we began to get an understanding of how economists look at everything. And, you know, an economist has an ability to diagnose you similar to the way a doctor might, and recommends how you might do this or do that. And sometimes you have to tell them, well, you know, I'm just not giving up beef, or I'm just not going to change the way we do this. Sometimes you have to say, you know what, that's a better idea, and we're going to do it. So this report captures some of that information. To open up, I think it's important just to give you a snapshot on page 2 of where we are today. There are 7 bed and breakfasts. There are 6 campgrounds, 114 hotels, and 1,483 short-term rentals available or advertised in Virginia Beach. In the next slide, the hotel, this report let us, or provided the information on page 3, that the hotel market in Virginia Beach has experienced a robust recovery over the past decade. And the same thing has not been generally true in Hampton Roads. And Virginia Beach, since the year 2000, has gone from a market share of 34% to 40%. To some degree, the historic triangle's loss has been our gain, but it hasn't been a relative comparison in like-kind properties. It's just that their market has fallen off some. On page 7 of the broader report, you'll see that occupied hotel rooms are back to pre-recession levels in 2016. We're up to almost 7,000 occupied, and the previous record was just below that. We dipped seriously during the recession, and I think we all understand how closely we're associated with the military, but we are truly a tourist and vacation mecca as well, and I don't have to tell anyone either one of those facts. One of the things that we tried to look at in comparing short-term rental properties that are offered by private property owners and hosts, if you will, is the RevPAR, and that's the revenue per available room. That's a term that's used in the lodging industry. And in 2016, the RevPAR, Air RevPAR, far exceeded Hampton Roads and the state and was close to the national average. So considering the beating we took during the recession, this is a very good trend for the lodging industry in Virginia Beach. On the next page, page 4, you'll see that, and I'm bouncing around pages, but I'm trying to give you a reference. The first bullet on page 4 we pulled from pages 14 and 16 in the report. The number of active listings on Airbnb went from uno, in year 2011 to 392 in year 2016. Now, if you read in the report, you know, listings don't mean occupancy, but they do mean that they're offered for rental out there. And one of the things that piques my interest and my responsibility is when someone holds themselves out to be in business or rent their property like a business would, then it's my responsibility to determine whether they, A, need a business license, or B, perhaps need to collect the lodging tax in accordance with the local city ordinances. So the fact that they listed and may not have rented is not really the issue. That's part of why I've asked you over and over, please work with me to try to discover and get these folks registered. And then we'll be able to have some data to give you complete analysis of not only its effect on our community, but its standing as a competitive business or an element of our lodging business. The next bullet on page 17, in Virginia Beach, the number of available Airbnb properties increased 325% over the same period. Hotel rooms increased only 1% or 1.2%. So I think you can see that the social media and online business climate is quite here and ready to roll. And we have a great market in Virginia. We have a great resort in Virginia Beach, and it's one that the residents here have utilized to advertise on this online platform. Next bullet, on the active listings on Airbnb, 41% are private rooms while 59% are home rentals. Now, this is an important point. This is from page 20 on table 3. And if you look in there, my math is based on the fact of the ODU study points out that essentially 41% of that total was private room rentals. The others may have been a studio, like a garage apartment. The others may have been, it'll list as 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom. We consider anything other than a private room rental subject to some kind of whole home rental in that percentage. And that shows that there's a lot of activity for single room rental. You can see in the report that there may not be that much revenue from it yet, but there's a lot of activity, and that is something that's happening in residential areas, commercial areas, and so forth. So I just want to make the distinction that there are a lot of room rentals out there, and that's something that we'll be dealing with, or that you may want us to deal with over the next several months, and how we're going to address that question. On page 23 and 24, I lifted a statement. On average, the traditional lodging sector recorded an occupancy rate of 62% in 2016, significantly higher than Airbnb's 44%. But that's understandable because truly, I mean, if you own a hotel and you have a mortgage and taxes and payroll to meet and all of those things, it's not to say that a homeowner doesn't have a mortgage and taxes to meet, but their payroll is shouldn't be involved there, and someone can decide to take their home off the market if they want to take a 2-week vacation, or if they, if they're renting a room in their home, or they're not bound by the competitive market forces. It's more of it's a choice to be out there. But one thing that we did find about these variations in occupancy, that they tracked about the same through the season. And it validates our understanding that, Airbnb and hotels both go up in the summertime, and they tend to go down in January and February and March. And they don't pick back up until the spring. Finally, or not finally, let's see, on page 5 of the slide, so where are we? Correlating with page 28 and graph 16, the RevPAR for hotels is almost twice that of Airbnb rentals. Again, I think that gives some explanation to the fact that, well, I think I better read from that section so you may get a more clear understanding rather than my summary. ODU said, RevPAR looks virtually the same for Airbnb and traditional hotels, but recall again that Airbnb's RevPAR is per listing, not per room. So they came up with an adjustment where they said, after we again performed the 1.8 room per listing adjustment, it is immediately apparent that Airbnb hosts on average are reaping far less RevPAR than the conventional lodging sector hotel. In other words, they don't have as efficient rental property, if you will, and comparing apples to apples, they're not as productive. But if you say that it's kind of like winning a lottery ticket in a way, I mean, it's their choice to rent their home, and whatever they're making is gravy to some extent. They may have figured it into the purchase of a home to say that if I can rent it, I can pay this mortgage or whatever, but we don't know that yet. And until we begin to build some data and see the complexion, if you will, the construct of who owns these homes, whether they're buying them for investment or whether they're buying them to live there, or whether they've lived there for years and say, oh, well, heck, I can monetize this in some way. I paid my mortgage, but this will help me build a travel account. We don't know those things until we get a broader body of information. on the next bullet, most home rentals are for multi-bedroom homes. Well, I think we pointed that out. On page 31, table 5, if you add that up, that's about 70%. 70% of our rentals are for multi-bedroom homes. On page 34 and 36, Virginia Beach stands out from other cities because it has the highest percentage of revenue earned through listings from 4-bedroom homes or more. Now, the chart shows 26%, and if you're looking on in your report from Old Dominion, they have some tables misnumbered there. On page 36 is in fact table 8, where you could correlate that information from page 34's text. The long and the short of it is, last slide, is that we have a very robust lodging market in Virginia Beach. We have 3 major sectors: the traditional hotel and home rental market, which have been here for decades. In fact, probably 100 years with the home rental market and the traditional old hotels. But we also have we have a new option with online home and room rentals. And they're all evolving. All of these markets are. One of the things you'll find from the report is that the stock of hotel rooms in Virginia Beach, the number hasn't really grown that much. It's about 11,000. A little more, a little less here and there. But the quality has grown a lot. The discount hotel rooms or the economy hotel rooms are not there as much. So our RevPAR has grown. In other words, they've been able to charge more per room. And they're bringing clientele in that will spend more money. So it's been good. It's been good for the city and good for the industry. At the same time, we have this new player in the market, the online home rentals, and they're evolving. They're evolving as fast as we discover them. I mean, truly. So we're lucky to have this robust environment. We're going to have to take a good look at it over the next couple of months, though. So that leads me to the next bullet. And the thing that is important here to me, I'll say it one last time, is discovery. If we don't know where they are, we can't give you any analysis on what we don't know. We're not going to be able to find it out. So discovery is very important. This new activity is in primarily residential districts. And the effect that this will have, we've had discussions with Kevin and the folks in planning and zoning, and we will be looking at that over the next several months and trying to get the best information from the public as well as from the professionals to report to you. And there has to be some assimilation within these residential districts. To what degree will be determined by the community at large. And if I live next door to someone who's bought a property and started renting it, it may not affect me the same way that if the same was happening next to Dave's house. And we need to just be able to give you some data on that and some feedback other than just anecdotal, cries and screams that it's a great business deal or it's a disruptive environment. So we just have to figure out how to get to that. So I'll close with this. We're going to have to take some path ahead, and I'm not dictating this at all. I'm just making a suggestion, and I'm willing to work with the manager and anyone that you all would say. But we need to probably get some working groups together. You already had put some in place with opportunities for public input. There'll have to be some development of a draft ordinance or something that we can all work towards. The Planning Commission, I would think, would review this, and whatever consideration that they or whatever they hand to you for consideration, I would ask that we try to get it in place no later than January 1st. I don't think it's an imperative that we have it in place this summer. We're learning. And I'll end with this. The last couple of years have been hard to explain to the layperson who doesn't deal with legislation and doesn't see public policy evolve and doesn't see the workings between local governing bodies and the General Assembly. and constitutional offices for that matter, and people that have to deal with the implementation of some local ordinances. And I think that I see some folks from Sandbridge Civic League and, you know, various places around, and I think that there's a growing understanding of that, and it's important that we've got a great opportunity to build on that. But it's complicated, and people need to be serious when they talk about this instead of just, you know, coming in with their hair on fire saying there's no chance for this to happen, this will never work. Folks, they're here. People are renting properties closer than you think, and we're discovering them everywhere across the city. They are concentrated mostly along the ocean front in Sandbridge, in the North Beach, and somewhat along the bayfront. But they are scattered throughout the city, and they all have various reasons for why there's a market for them. Some want to be close to town center. Some would rather be in a home than to rent a home. And they may want to rent a home in Lagomar instead of one at Sandbridge. They may want to rent an apartment near Regent and go there for a lecture series. You know, there are lots of, they may want to rent a home here and commute to Norfolk. And so there's lots of reasons. We need to discover them, and we need to be able to report to you on this. So look forward to working with all you folks on
Thank
this.
you very much, Phil. We got a few questions. Barbara?
Just to understand what the data is, in the ODU study, you know,
Yes,
it's referred to as the Airbnb. So in these charts and so forth, were they only reporting those that are rented through Airbnb, or did it include other platforms too? Or was it only the Airbnb?
Airbnb, it's other platforms as well, and there's a company called AirDNA, and they're the ones that they're the reporting company.
So we could read this data and know that it's all of the online platforms, not just Airbnb.
There's one, they're coming and going every day. So it really is, I'm loath to give you a definitive answer that you can fold away.
Well, I just didn't know if we had to factor in that, oh, this is only Airbnb, it's going to be other things as well.
It's the best understanding that we can get at this moment.
And on page of the first, your slides, where it said that the short-term rental listings are 1,483. I know when we did the registration update ordinance last week, we had to consider the General Assembly's action that any short-term rental that is rented by a realty company does not have to register.
That's correct.
Does this number include short-term rentals handled by a realty company, or is it only the ones that have to register?
It's the ones that have to register, and the 1,400 number has all the rentals in there.
That's all of them. So
And
that
we have,
includes the ones handled by realty companies as well.
yes, ma'am, and we have a total of 1,082 properties that are managed through real estate companies.
So 1,082 of that 1,400 is managed by realty companies.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, sir.
I'm always impressed by Dr. Cook's work, and I hope all of you did have a chance to read this. I'd encourage you to read it, because one thing I like about him is he also addresses, what the report does, the motivations and what's motivating the market for the different behaviors and different positions that people have and why they have them. And that's often we don't get that kind of insight. That's one of the things an economist does provide. What's motivating the market? Why are you seeing what you see? But they did a very good job.
Thank you, John. Any other comments? Thank you, Phil, very much for taking the time. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. We'll now move on to the Kempsville Recreation presentation. Pretty impressive what's getting ready to open up out there. Young lady from Kempsville.
It looks awesome.
Huh?
So, members of council, I have invited Michael Calvert and his staff in, and the Public Works team that helped put it together for them. A sizable investment. and we're getting ready to rock you a little bit here. So something to celebrate. Always a ribbon cutting coming. This week. So with that, our
Yeah, and I'm not going to be
Director of
cutting the
Parks and Rec.
ribbon. Mr. Jones will be doing that. I'll be getting cataract surgery.
Best of luck to you, Mayor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Michael, we're glad to have you.
Well, I am super excited to be here today. I would dance if I could dance, but I can't, so I will save that for Thursday when we officially open it up. But again, Mayor and Council, good to see you all. I'm Michael Calvert, your Parks and Recreation Director. I'm joined here today by some of my team members. We have Shirley Deibler, our Programming Operations Administrator. We have Anthony Taylor, who you'll meet in a moment. He's actually our conductor and building supervisor at Kempsville. Kevin Jensen from Public Works. We have Chad Morris, our Planning, Design, and Development Administrator. And we have Tracy Gochi, who oversees all our recreation centers. So
We're glad to have each and every one of you here.
we're going to give you kind of a pictorial and then a virtual walkthrough, and then if technology works, kind of a fly-through of our brand-new community recreation center in Kempsville. Just to remind you all of the history of Kempsville, this was actually our first recreation center, almost built 40 years to the day. We opened up in May of 1977. The original building was about 85,000 square feet. Our new building, which we're going to be opening on Thursday, is 87,000 square feet. I can tell you, though, we're utilizing the space much better in our new facility, and I think you'll agree with me once you see it that it's been money well spent, and we're definitely going to serve our citizens in a great way. I want to compliment you all on your vision. Just to remind you all, over the past 6 years, at first we opened up the Williams Farm Recreation Center. Then immediately after that, once that opened, we closed down Bow Creek and actually rebuilt it. And when we rebuilt it, we added a lot of community amenities that weren't there previously. We did the same thing with Kempsville. As you'll see when you go out to the property, not only did we tear down and rebuild Kempsville, but we also improved Larkdowns Park, which is right next door. So we added a walking path, we added new backstops for the community. We actually went from 5 fields down to 3 for the young athletes that are there. And overall, really just an aesthetic upgrade for the entire community. As always, we're hyper-focused on our 4 community priorities. They are providing community access, protecting the environment and the outdoors, promoting healthy lifestyles, and ensuring stewardship to improve and maintain our parks and recreation facilities. And we really designed this facility with the community to make sure we're hitting all 4 of these community priorities. So obviously, we want to hit on the council's 10 goals. We think we're doing that as well. But again, focused on these community priorities. This has really been a 3-year collaborative partnership with the entire Kempsville community and surrounding communities. We work very closely with civic associations. We work very closely with citizens. We did a number of different surveys. We talked with individuals in Centerville and in Lake Edward and other surrounding communities too. We wanted to make this a home for a number of different people. And again, as I said, we also work very closely with the Kempsville Recreation Association to make sure that they're getting out of the park what they want. And then finally, before I turn it over to Shirley, I want to thank our supportive partners. Obviously, you all, the mayor and council, Council Lady Abbott has been very supportive. She's been on a couple of hard hat tours with us. I also want to acknowledge Dr. Ross Hammond, who was with us in the beginning, and she has been very passionate and helped us at the beginning of this project. The city manager's office, Mr. Hanson and Mr. Chandler have been hyper-focused and hyper-supportive, helping us get this building delivered on budget. And also our friends Kevin Jensen and the entire Public Works Department have been working tirelessly out there the last 2.5 years or so. Our architects and our contractors out there, Blue Ridge General is a general contractor, HBA Architecture, Moody Nolan, WPL Site Design, and I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge all the help from the entire Parks and Recreation team. I can tell you that the vast majority of our team members have had a fingerprint on this building, and I think it'll show when we eventually open in just 2 short days. So again, I want to invite you all and remind you all, as well as invite all our citizens, that our grand opening is going to be coming up this coming Thursday at 11 a.m. Once we kind of have the big reveal and open up the facility, we'll be open and free Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for all our citizens. Again, free to use, and then starting immediately on Monday, either through a membership pass or one of our day passes. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Shirley Deibler, our Programming and Operations Administrator. She's going to kind of give you a virtual tour of the facility and tell you a little bit more about our services that we're providing.
Thank you, Michael. Shirley, we're glad to have you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to talk to you about Kempsville Recreation Center. It's really an exciting and amazing time for Parks and Recreation. I think I took a tour with Anthony today, and he has me all pumped up. The next few minutes, we're just going to talk about a little insight of our team members and a little bit about what you're going to expect to see when you come to visit us at the Recreation Center. We feel we really have a well-balanced team. They're going to complement the other 6 rec center teams that we have out there. There's veteran staff, there's new staff, there's a good mix of diversity, there's a lot of varying skill sets and expertise that's out there. And also, we have 10 full-time team members that worked at the previous recreation center that will be housed in this recreation center. So we're bringing a wealth of knowledge and history to the center team. Our team prides themselves in providing excellent customer service. You get one chance at making that one great impression, and we want you to come back day after day after day. When the view that you're looking at here is from our front door in the lobby when you first walk in, and you can see the front desk area and a little bit of chairs and the area walking in. What you're going to find from our team is that we're going to be welcoming and engaging. We're going to be caring and respectful. We're going to be the role models for those children that are coming in the facility. We're going to be approachable, using a personal touch to connect you to the programs and services that you need. And we're also going to be providing you center tours, being your information hub. You have an opportunity to meet our staff, be in a very safe, very inclusive environment. The staff are CPR and first aid trained. They're first responders. They have the ability to be able to come in and just take you on tours and give you all the expertise that you need. The part that I think is really enhanced here is that you're going to have Wi-Fi access. You're going to have the ability to be able to come in and use your tablets and your phones. You can sign up for a program or a service. You can do our online memberships. We have Facebook and Twitter, so you can follow us. And we have cardio equipment that is interactive programming, so you can get right online and look on your computers there. And there is a computer kiosk that will be in the front area there, so if you want staff assistance, you can actually sign up for your programs, your memberships, and those kind of things right there at the facility. The Kensville team is really dynamic and they're amazing. I spent some time with them this afternoon. They really are very talented. They are led by a team and by an individual who we consider to be the conductor of the building. It's our building supervisor. He really has the overall responsibility of coordinating, collaborating, day-to-day operations. He's going to make sure that this facility is going to run like a well-oiled machine. I'm very pleased today to introduce you to the conductor of the New Kempsville Recreation Center, Mr. Anthony Taylor.
I'll click for you.
Well, I haven't got, oh yeah, sorry. Forgot the picture.
Anthony, we're glad to have you here. Good luck
Anthony
to you.
has a vast amount of experience. He's globally worked in different countries around the world, and he has vast experience in sports management and recreation. He is working behind the scenes with PDD and Public Works and the contractors, working with his own team building, getting out there and getting everything ready for this Thursday. And I asked Anthony for a quote, and he said, "We take time to build the community and get to know the people. We can have a long-lasting impact on the community." He's very passionate about community engagement and building teams. Anthony has been an absolute motivation for this team at Kempsville, and he's been doing an outstanding job, so we thank you and welcome aboard. Glad to have you. Okay, the next few minutes I'm going to take kind of on a virtual little tour. I'm going to walk you through all of our areas, and I wanted to start with the natatorium and the pool. If I'm going to be honest with you, I was like, natatorium, I wasn't sure what that meant. I had to look it up. It's Latin for building with pool in it, so now I know what that term means. The pool is absolutely phenomenal. It looks like 2 pools. There is an area for zero-depth entry point into the play area, so you'll have a gradual entryway. There is a play area that's a 200-foot aqua track. There is a spray ground in there as well, so there's lots of little bells and whistles on that side. There will also be the traditional 6 lap lanes, the exercise stations, 2 1-meter diving boards, and a 20-foot climbing wall. So you can see where the teams will be able to practice, and you'll be able to see where the kids will be able to swim, and we'll have our swim lessons. We will have a variety of swim classes, including therapeutic recreation and aquatics fitness classes. And we're very happy to say that our students on the swim program, our SOS, will be adding 550 students. These children will be coming from College Park, Fairfield, Kempsville, Kempsville Meadows, Providence, and Woodstock. Our collaborations with the schools have actually been excellent, and this year our total for 2017-18 will be approximately 2,000 participants across all of our centers citywide. We also have dive and water polo leagues hosting Kempsville and Tallwood High School, who will be able to come in from November to February and have swim and dive practices. And with the addition of Kempsville, the now 11 high schools will have the opportunity to have 6 recreation center sites to practice. Okay, next slide. This is a fitness area, and as you can see, we have our traditional type of equipment in there. There's the free weights, the circuit, and the cardio equipment. In the middle area there, it's called our Synergy Fitness Station. So I heard today you could do over 600 different type of exercises on there, so that's really cool. We're offering classes such as body pump if you want to add a little weights to your workout, Zumba if you like the dance, and a little bit of yoga if you like the meditation and the more relaxing type. We have small group training, sports conditioning for the athletes, certified personal trainers if you really need the one-on-one, and then we also have group fitness instructors if you like the class environment. If you look along the top there, you can see the mezzanine area, which has our indoor track. The track really is an absolutely great opportunity. No matter what the elements are outside, you can walk inside. Gives you the opportunity to do some high-intensity interval training, so you can go back and forth between the equipment and walk around the track. It's good for people with varying abilities, and it also is very safe and very convenient.
How big's the track?
The track,
1/8 of a mile.
there we go. 8 laps around to make a mile. All right, the gymnasium is absolutely gorgeous. It is a double gymnasium, has 12 basketball hoops, adjustable from 8 feet to 10 feet for smaller children as well. We are striping the court for pickleball, volleyball, badminton, and basketball, and it's going crosswise and lengthwise so we can get maximum use out of the space. We have suspended bamboo flooring in there, which will allow for flexibility, a little bit easier on the joints. And also, we'll be running sports and specialty camps. We will be opening up tournaments, and we'll have open gym time for the kids and the adults. Okay, in our youth room, the picture that I'm showing you here is really about our activity play structure. It's an interactive structure that has opportunities for you to play. You can't really see it, but there's like a little piano in the back there. There's also sensory games like Simon Says. There's also the slides and the hanging and the swinging type things. And you'll be able to separate this room by partitions. So if we have older or younger kids in the room at the same time, we have the ability to separate them. It's a monitored and very flexible space. We'll be offering drop-in childcare, parent night outs, and hosting birthday parties. And then for the older kids, you can see that we have your traditional pool tables, table tennis, we have air hockey. We have areas for them to play video games and sit and talk and converse with one another. And with the older children in mind, one thing that we are really trying to do is engage our youth and teens because they are so important to us. We have 3 opportunities this summer to engage youth. One is our summer youth employee program, which is really providing the youth the opportunity to learn life skills and to bring them forward into the workforce readiness. We have a staff person that will be on our team working this summer at Kempsville. We also have a great example of our youth development program in the Mayor's Youth Leaders in Action program, which is our MYLA, really geared towards the middle and high schoolers. These are amazing young individuals. They will be working with us this summer and also at the grand opening, helping us with activities and events. I just learned yesterday, I think, that we have a summer intern from ECU that will be working with us at Kempsville as well. All right, the Kempsville room is our Forever Young Center. It's a really quaint little space, as you can see, really using that for our seniors, for the people that are 55 and older. They'll be able to come in and socialize, have gatherings, participate in some special events, have lunch together, go out on excursions, local shopping trips. And in the space there, we'll program that on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and there is transportation available for the seniors as they need it.
And actually, for convenience, we actually have a restroom which is connected to that room for our seniors. So trying to make it as convenient for all our citizens as possible.
Okay, for therapeutic recreation, which is our TR room, this serves our patrons with disabilities. TR was housed in Kempsville when it closed, so we have a wing here for it as well. The picture that you're looking at here is actually of the office space, and directly in front of that is 2 rooms that they'll be able to use. We do have programs that we'll be running this summer for Camp Explore, which is summer camps or after-school programs. And we're really happy that we have a new program that we'll be able to add this year in the fall called Ability Builders. And it's a program for individuals with disabilities that are ages 22 to 30 that are transitioning out of high school, and will give them an opportunity to continue working on a variety of physical and social skills. So it's a great new program that we'll have this fall. Our out-of-school time unit, I love this picture. The chairs are so small, I tried sitting in them. I don't really fit, but they have small little toilets. Everything's really cute in there. It's actually a dedicated wing for early childhood. Early childhood program originally started in Kempsville by our Parks and Recreation Center staff. These schools, we will be serving 5 schools, which are Fairfield, Indian Lakes, Kempsville, Kempsville Meadows, and Providence. The program times are from 6:30 in the morning till 6 at night. There is a dedicated wing, similar to if you've ever been to Bow Creek. This is a very similar structure. A secure wing featuring 3 classrooms. It has direct access to the outdoor play area, which you can see from this picture here. You can go right out the door there. There is a exclusive parent pickup and parking entrance area for them to come in. And we will be able to take an additional 57 students for preschoolers and kindergartners aged 3 and 4. And we do provide transportation from those 5 schools for the kindergartners. So 57 extra spaces is really awesome. The next piece is school-age childcare programs, which is considered to be our after-school programs. These are from school dismissal time to 6 p.m. In this program, we're able to add up to an additional 80 elementary school-age children and just have them involved in a variety of activities and programs that we have after school. Okay, for the multi-purpose room, they've been calling this our quad room. You can kind of see tucked in, there's a kind of a gray area there. We can partition it off into 4 sections. So we're able to do multiple events, have multiple meetings. We can have community meetings, special events, birthday parties, rentals. There's a lot of different things we can do in that room, program it. And we also just learned today that the history wall is up. So when you're coming down the multi-purpose hallway, please take a second to look at the history wall. It's really unique and very, very pretty, very interesting. Okay, the last item I wanted to highlight for you is our vision for our future. What are we really going to be focusing on? One of the biggest priorities that we have is to continue to align with the now 10 council goals, city council goals. How are we going to do this? We're going to continue to offer programs and services that align with things such as being welcoming and empowering, providing job opportunities, providing a safe and inclusive environment, and really looking at focusing on healthy lifestyles and wellness. Programs such as Students on the Swim, our programs such as Out of School Time and MYLA fall closely in line with the Mayor's Action Challenge for Children and Families that started in 2010. We're going to continue to support those programs. And finally, I think it's clear to me that Anthony's vision is all about community and empowerment and finding ways to connect. This is our vision for Parks and Recreation. How do we extend from beyond the inside walls to the outside walls? How do we pursue opportunities to expand community engagement? Really look at collaboration and partnerships and finding ways to look at shared spaces and joint use with our internal partners. How do we look at civic engagement and connect the community, our civic leagues, find volunteers, be more proactive and take an approach knowing that we are here to build relationships that are going to last a lifetime. Let's stay connected, and I really think that Anthony's vision is going to be able to take us there, where we need to go. All right, so I've given you a little teaser of information on our new Kempsville Recreation Center. I've talked to you a little bit about the staff, a little bit about the programs and services, our vision for the future. And I think the center is an absolutely wonderful amenity that's here for now and for an eternity. And I feel that we're very fortunate to have this as part of our community. As you can hear in my voice, I'm hoping, and anybody that you're going to talk to, we're so extremely excited and passionate about this recreation center. And I wanted to leave you with a thought. Every day I go home, and it's just a great feeling when you know you have had an impact in someone's life and that you're making a difference. It gets me out of bed every day and brings me back to work. I really appreciate everything that you do and all your support, and we really hope you're going to be able to join us on Thursday at 11.
We thank you very much, Shirley.
We have a quick video if we could just show. Do we have time
Absolutely.
to show a 2-minute video, Mayor?
Love to see it. Says I want to see it first.
This is actually a video which the city manager's communications office put together, Matt and his team, and I think it just gives you a really good perspective of the facility. with that, we hope to see you Thursday, and we'll stand by for any questions you guys may have.
Thank you very much for y'all's presentation. Any questions or comments? We thank you and good luck on Thursday. I know it's going to be great.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Nice job. Okay, let's go to planning. Carolyn, you're up. Okay, they didn't even put Kevin on the agenda. Kevin, we're glad to have you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. All right, Carol and I will go over real quickly here the planning items you will see on July 11th and 18th, and I'll wait till the slideshow gets up here. So I'll start with July 11th. And on July 11th, you'll be hearing 7 items. All 7 items were recommended for approval by staff and Planning Commission. Go over those now. First item is a conditional rezoning in the Centerville District. This site is currently developed with a church and a single-family home. It is being rezoned or proposed for PDH 2A12 for development of 33 townhomes. Comes out to a density of 6.2 units an acre. Here you see this proposed layout. It is 65% open space, which far exceeds the 15% requirement. Most of the open space is in the rear of the site where there is floodplain subject to special restrictions. However, no development will be done there. Another interesting thing is you'll see that 2 connection points to the property to the south will be stubbed in for connectivity should that be developed in the future.
I'll ask one thing. When this comes back, could you just please provide the calculation if it developed in the traditional zoning, giving the configuration of the property, the wetlands, how many units can actually get on that property?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, the second item is a subdivision variance in the Lynn Haven District. It is a 5.6 acre site. There is a home on it currently that was built in 1945. The applicant now wishes to subdivide it into 2 lots. Normally, this acreage would lend 3, but there are environmental constraints on this. Here are the proposed layouts of the lots. Lot A1 is 1.1 acres, has 165 feet of frontage, and meets all dimensional requirements. The subdivision variance is needed for Lot B1, which only has 20 feet of frontage instead of 125 that's required. I will note on May 22nd, this went before the Chesapeake Bay Preservation Board and was granted approval for development of 2 single-family homes on the site. Third case is, or item is a CUP for a business and vocational school. This currently exists in the office building. It has for years with a valid business license. They came in to expand their classroom space, and it was caught that they did not have a conditional use permit, and so they come before you. The expansion is minor. It's 255 square feet of additional classroom space. No changes are proposed to the building or the site, and staff recommends approval. The fourth item is a conditional rezoning in the Bayside District. This is a rezoning from R5D and industrial to a conditional A36. The proposed development is a 382-unit market rate apartment complex. Next slide, you'll see the layout. It has 7 four-story buildings, 5 townhome buildings, shared parking, 660 parking, and an indoor and outdoor rec area. Also note that Tolliver Road, it straddles Tolliver Road, which is slated to begin construction next year.
Just one observation. We've talked several times about our forestry plan and how we're going to be looking at parking lots differently and not doing the traditional little bit of grass. I've yet to see a project come in here that has complied with what we were presenting. Maybe we're never going to see one, but if we're not, can we just change the policy so we shouldn't have an expectation that we're going to see something different?
Fair point.
I have a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry. Is this area known as Amherst Park?
I'm not sure. I don't believe so.
Burton Station.
It's never been called Amherst Park or
This
anything?
has never been developed.
Okay,
We gotta build a road
I got
to
an
get to
email
it.
about this, so I wasn't really sure. Okay, that's all then.
This has always been Burton Station. This
Okay.
is part of that whole SGA redevelopment where we put a certain amount of residential density in there, light industrial in there, and retail in there. And so this is really consuming the lion's share of the residential that we put in there, and kind of pushes up next to Burton Station Lake and part of the whole drainage issues that we were doing with there.
Where's Amherst?
Go ahead, John.
You know, on the front page of the paper, because it relates to this particular topic, it talks about our population is projected to only go up 8.3%, which is roughly 1,200 people a year. And I know you asked earlier, Mr. Mayor, about where all the apartments coming from, and I'm not trying to drive market conditions, but there's certainly, they both can't be right. All I know is all these two trend lines can't occupy the same square of truth. You can't have that much household formation out of aging population and households relative to the amount of apartments we're building with 0.3% annual population growth. Something doesn't match. I realize we don't judge the marketplace, but I can tell you there's a confluence of forces which I cannot appreciate why that is. Someone's going to be left holding a bag somewhere. Hopefully it's not us.
Hopefully it's not one of those bubbles that pops.
I tell you, the numbers don't make sense.
And I will mention also, this is consistent with the SGA plan as Mr. Hanson described. The fifth item, this is a housekeeping item. Back in 2012, a proffer agreement was approved for 84 single-family homes on this. In that proffer agreement, it requires that the open space be rezoned to P1. We've since changed our ordinance. That doesn't require this anymore, but this is a house cleaning to fulfill those proffers. Hopefully it'll be the last one we see. Agenda item number 6 is an amendment which aligns our ordinance with State Bill 1282. What this does is it amends the definition of a small cell wireless facility and gives size requirements where it can be placed on existing structures by right. It is important to note that small cell facilities that aren't attached to existing structures still will require a conditional use permit. Other items that are addressed are up to 35 small cell facilities can be on one application. The landscaping requirements move from a shall to a should. They are now allowed on single-family homes and duplex dwellings, and the facilities must be removed if not used for a year.
And this is to accommodate 5G, if I remember correctly?
Mm-hmm. And the last item on July 11th is another amendment ordinance, which also amends our ordinance with a recently passed state bill. It is in regard to the 30-day appeal period for the Board of Zoning Appeals and appeals to the zoning administrator. 30-day period begins when the property owner receives notice, either posting or certified mail. This doesn't change our policy at all. We are currently doing this. All this does is sync the language in the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Carol, we welcome you.
Thank you. We have 4 items scheduled for you on July 18th. Items 1, 3, and 4 are coming forward with a favorable recommendation from both the staff and the Planning Commission. However, item number 2 is not moving forward with the same recommendation. And I'll get to the reasons why in just a minute. But item number 1 is a request for a conditional use permit for a home-based wildlife rehabilitation facility in the Salem Lakes neighborhood in the Princess Anne District. The applicant is a licensed wildlife rehabilitator, and when she began the process of updating her license, the Department of Game and Fisheries notified her that she also needed the conditional use permit with the City of Virginia Beach. So she has been doing this for a number of years, so she has several cages in the rear of her property. She has an affinity for squirrels, raccoons, and possums. She has provided several letters of support from her neighbors, and we are not aware of any opposition to this request. Item number 2 is a request for a conditional use permit for auto sales on a piece of property that in 1978, the City Council approved a conditional use permit for an automobile service station. So since that time, a convenience store as well as several gas pumps have been operating on that site. The applicant submitted this request for auto sales in early 2016, and it was deferred once by the Planning Commission, and then in June, they acted on it at the public hearing, And they did concur with staff, and they are recommending denial of this request to you unanimously.
Can I ask a question? Or
Certainly.
Would you rather I do this offline?
That's fine.
I just met with these gentlemen right before this meeting. And could you tell me the reason that it was denied?
Sure. I'll get to that, if that's okay.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I thought you were going on to the
No,
next one. I
I'm sorry, yeah. So let me tell you a little bit about it. It's, no problem. The request is to display up to 12 motor vehicles on this site outlined in the yellow area. So the business will be operated by appointment only, and it's the applicant's intent to advertise the vehicles for sale via the internet. There is a small wooden shed on the site that they propose to upgrade, and that will be the office for the auto sales operation. So staff and both the Planning Commission have several concerns. One being that the site is at the entrance to the Bow Creek neighborhood, and while there is a small auto sales operation on, I believe it's 2 lots to the south, we have concerns about adding another auto-related operation to this small site at the entrance to the Bow Creek neighborhood. We think that the details of the proposal are not reflective of a typical high-quality sales operation that you see throughout Virginia Beach. Most of the commercial uses in the vicinity are predominantly retail or service-oriented, and that's what's called for in the comprehensive plan, particularly on highly visible sites such as this one at the entrance into that Bow Creek neighborhood. Mr. Robani did provide the Planning Commission with up to 30 signatures of support from the neighbors in the Bow Creek neighborhood, and also some of those are property owners and business owners in the vicinity. So he's very passionate about this request, and he's been excellent to work with, and he, I'm sure, will certainly provide you his point of view at the July 18th meeting.
Have another question from Jim Wood.
So I guess my concern is, I can't think of a single gas station that I know that's not a corporate station that doesn't have a half dozen or a dozen cars for sale. They might not officially be for sale, but they're parked up not as neatly as this is. And honestly, I think virtually any place that does automobile repair also has. I mean, I can think of one right where I just dropped my truck off today. I won't say where it is. I don't want to get him in trouble, but he's got 5 right there for sale that I know of. And so I guess my concern is if you've got somebody that wants to come in and do this the right way, they actually want to get a permit rather than doing what everybody else does and just have them sitting out there. I don't know why we would be opposed to it, but that's just.
I concur with.
Ditto your remarks.
Shannon.
I concur with Jim, and in speaking with the 2 brothers, their story is the staff that they work with said, relocate the dumpster, put all this green stuff everywhere and this landscaping and move this and do that. And this whole diagram here is what they said that they were asked to do by our staff. And they did that, and then and so they said they wanted, I think, 24 or 36 to begin with, but they agreed to take it down to 12, which is the minimum that the DMV says that they would have. And they've got larger parking spaces there than across the road at the mall, as he says. So and the fact that there's a car lot 2 doors down, it just doesn't make sense that we would deny them the use of their property when there's something 2 doors down that's very similar. That excuse or that reasoning doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, we're not making any votes today, but I just wanted to.
One thing that when you're talking to them throughout this process, I would suggest they get a little bit better office than the.
Well, they said that, they mentioned that to me today, that the shed it's being termed is not necessarily a shed. They explained it to me, so I'm gonna ride by tonight and take a look at.
Good luck
the
to you,
shed.
young lady. Good luck. All right, let's move on.
Certainly. So item number 3 is a request for Starbucks. They are proposing to redevelop a site on Laskin Road with an eating and drinking establishment with a drive-through. And they're seeking a special exception for alternative compliance to develop the site with a 1-story commercial building type rather than a 2-story building as required by the form-based code. So the proposed building reaches a height of 23 feet, which is just 2 feet shy of the minimum prescribed height by a mixed-use building type. The use of the 13-foot tall storefront windows, we believe, enhances the perceived height of the building, And it provides increased transparency, which is very important in pedestrian-oriented areas. So we think this is a great redevelopment of this property, and we're not aware of any opposition.
Jim?
So, I hate to be on the opposite side again, but I gotta tell you, I think if it's gonna be anything like the thing that they did on the corner of Great Neck and the Boulevard, I hear complaints about that all the time. And this, the elevation looks a lot like that, the rendering, and I'm worried that it's gonna be that level of quality. I know we don't legislate taste here, but, you know, this is at the gateway to the resort, and you're making exception to not comply with the guidelines that we've got, and then you've got potentially a fairly hideous building. I'd like to see them come back with a little bit more detail, in my opinion.
John?
Just an observation, I'd like to know, have we had any applications that haven't had to have an exception to the form-based code? Because, well, I know since I've been here, everything, it seems, has had to have an exception to the form-based code. I'd just like to know how many things have been built without having to get an exception to the form-based code.
We actually,
versus how many. I'd
sure.
like to see a tabular, how many have been done in compliance and how many have been done with exception.
We actually, the SGA office, Christine Gay, actually prepared a presentation for the Planning Commission because they had some of those same questions, and it was pretty exciting and astonishing to see how much is happening that none of us touch, so.
I'd just like to see, 'cause I'd like to
Yeah,
know too.
that sounds like a great
I just see
idea.
the ones that are the exceptions.
Okay, you might make a note to give us that presentation.
Sure.
Okay?
Now.
All right. It's the old
A
David's
former
pharmacy.
pharmacy.
I was gonna say it's the pharmacy,
Yes,
right?
it's the
Yeah.
pharmacy, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is that what? Pharmacy's got.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's where he got killed, remember? Yeah. All right.
Okay, item number 4.
You're really on a roll now.
I know. I'm never going second again, that's for sure. The next request is for a conditional use permit for, it's actually a 3-prong approach. It's for an automobile repair garage and a bulk storage yard, which he has done on this site for decades. And then most recently, he applied for a dealership license through the DMV, and they notified him that he needed a conditional use permit for auto sales on this site. So we have bundled all of these requests into one application. So he wants to continue to fix cars on the site, and he wants to continue to have cars towed to the bulk storage yard. He actually has a contract with the police department to do that. But the new request, or the new activity on the site, is to display up to 4 motor vehicles for sale on this site. And you can see it, well, maybe you can't, it's quite small. That display area would be behind the existing repair building. So the majority of these vehicles would be a result of customers who don't pay their bill or simply abandon their vehicle. So in compliance with DMV regulations, he would like to offer those cars for sale from time to time. There's an existing stand of trees and some excellent mature vegetation along the western property line, and that provides a great screening to the residents to the west. We are not aware of any opposition to this request, and recommending approval on that one.
Thank you. Any questions on that one?
And that is it.
Thank you. It's a good afternoon, huh? We appreciate it very much. We really do. Hey, next month it'll be much easier. Okay. Yeah, you hope. We're going to now start the discussion on City Hall 2020, and I do believe there's a film that was going to be done first, if that's okay, Bobby.
Perfect.
Yes, sir.
3 videos. I think it's the same one. You have another one?
It's like homeroom.
There's another one.
Okay, let's get the video done so we can go home.
Okay. Well,
Let's go.
Mr. Dyer, I'd like to thank you for opening up our first public information meeting, and I'd sure like to thank all the members of council that attended last night. And with your emphasis placed on us to try to convey to our citizenry the need for this conversation, the need for our consideration of a project, we thought we'd bring you a 4th video today, and it was played before the attendees last night, and we'll run it again for you all that want.
Georgian architecture is sort of the cornerstone of what was the newer buildings built in the late 60s and early 70s here at the Municipal Center, which is now part of an historic district. And so from a feel, this building is very much an appropriate cornerstone for what we have here at the Municipal Center as a campus. Unfortunately, there's a couple of challenges with the building. And I want you to think of that in sort of three terms. The building is plagued with asbestos-containing material, and at the same time it has a deteriorating 48-year-old electrical distribution system and a deteriorating 48-year-old heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system. And those three combined have put us in a position where we really need to do something very soon, or this building's not going to be usable anymore. In 1969, when this building was built, asbestos was a very commonly used material for fireproofing, fire retardation, and for insulation. And as a result, the concrete decks above this floor, which was the first floor, above the second floor, and above the ceiling, were sprayed with a very thick fireproofing material made of asbestos. And over the years, that material has started to snow down onto the ceiling and into the wall cavities. And so above the ceiling, in this wall, throughout the building, is friable asbestos, which really limits what I can do with my building maintenance folks or with any engineers as far as penetrating the walls for anything at all. So that asbestos has created an environment in which I can't fix a lot of the things that you'd normally be able to fix in a building. When we're talking about the problems with electrical distribution in City Hall, I wanted folks to think about three things with that also. Wanted to think about panel capacity, wanted to think about grounding, and wanted to think about the age of the original switchgear in the basement. So here I am at one of the panels, and just so you can see, this panel is at full capacity, as are all of the other panels in the building. You know, perhaps unlike your home, you might have a few spare panels that you could put another circuit into, and you could run new conduit to put new outlets in your walls. We're unable to do that in City Hall right now because all of these panels are at full capacity. Because this is 1969 equipment and quite possibly never turned off, that if we were to turn it off with the Dominion power turned off outside in order to affect our repairs, when we turn it back on, it probably wouldn't stay back on. This pump was put in 1969. It's one of our chill water pumps, and it's in deplorable condition and really needs to be replaced. I can replace the motor, but I can't replace the pump. And the reason I can't replace the pump is because of the condition of this piping and the way it runs up into the building into asbestos contaminated areas. If I were to attempt to replace this pump and I were to wiggle this pipe incorrectly and it were to crack, it would crack catastrophically and all of the chill water would drain from the building. I wouldn't be able to replace the piping because of the condition of the piping, and I can't splice new piping into the 50-year-old piping, and we would be done. This is one of the 9 air handling units in the building. We should expect to get about 25 years of life out of an air handler like this, maybe a little more, and we're at 48 going on 49 years. Unfortunately, I can't replace these one at a time either. So if I want to take one out, I have to take them all out. In order to take them all out, I need to abate the asbestos. And so again, I've emptied the building for about 18 months. I've spent $3 million in relocation costs just to get the basics of the piping, the air handling units, and the fan coil units, and the pumps and piping systems replaced. Going forward in the future, council needs to think about all this stuff. We're going to do 3 public engagement sessions, one on Monday the 26th of June from 6 to 8, right across the street here in Building 19. We're going to do a second one on Wednesday the 26th of July at the Convention Center, again from 6 to 8. And the third session of the summer will be on Wednesday the 23rd of August, and that's going to be at the Westin in Town Center in the ballroom, again from 6 to 8. So I'd highly encourage anyone in the public that wants to learn more about the condition of the building or what the options are to come out, meet with us, ask questions, and engage us so that they can help their elected representative make an informed decision.
Thank you. And I do want to thank the staff last night for doing a tremendous job and a lot of the volunteers that were there. It was a very important meeting. I thought it was a very well run meeting, and I thought there was a tremendous amount of civility and engagement that went on. And I think it really hit the mark, the people that were there. that understood why we were doing this. And I think that was one of the ultimate objectives of what we had. The crowd was respectful, but they were vocal about, certain things. And, once again, I guess the main decision is whether to keep it on campus or get it off campus. And a lot of the discussion that, quite frankly, maybe sucked the oxygen out of the room a little bit was some of the motion that went into the discussions on, moving it to town center or even off campus. I thought it was fortuitous that our first meeting was right across the way from Building 1. And a lot of people went out there, and John and I went outside and looked at it and said, my goodness, what a remarkable, piece of architecture that we have out here. And, I think a lot of people that were in the room, really came up to a new appreciation of, the building and the campus, that we have here in terms of, what the decision is. And before I make, a couple specific remarks and maybe a recommendation that will facilitate some decision, if I could ask Dulcino Miles to make a comment. She was the one that kind of emceed the thing. And if you could just give an observation or two about, what your vision was, as somebody objective that was there.
Well, Dulcino, nice to see you.
Good to see you. Hello, everyone.
And you did a great job, Dulcino.
Thank you. Thank you. We had about roughly 60 people there, and Councilman Dyer said, it was very civil. And I sense that most people have sort of an attachment to the history here. Most people, they respect the fact that we had this opportunity for them. Many said so, that we're listening to them. They felt listened to. They felt respected. And there was I felt an overwhelming sentiment that they want to stay here because of the history and because of the cost savings, and those things are some other issues. We had some wonderful staff and topic experts on a panel where we had the Q&A, and some folks had their own ideas about how we can be the most efficient with tax dollars, that sort of thing. But for the most part, I think people appreciated the opportunity to weigh in on this process, and they respected that, and we assured them that that was not the only opportunity for them to weigh in. So we'll have a couple more meetings, and then we have the virtual, and we kept Dave in check, so we were cool. So you were on your best behavior. That's right. But I felt it was a great turnout. It's a good mix of folks, and most of the folks appreciated the displays and the Q&A. We had the boards there to address just about every topic, whether it was what the space needs were, what the deficiencies of this building were, as well as the budget and finance. And we had folks there to address traffic and transportation issues and parking. So we addressed the big topics, and we recorded all of that, and we're going to put that into a report and share that at the appropriate time so you can really see the actual statements that people made. Julie and her staff were there. They had we had brochures that Julie made. We handed those out, and a few people took extras so they could take them to their neighbors who were unable to attend, that sort of thing. So people left feeling that they were heard, and they're looking forward to where you all are going to go next. And they understood, and Dave made it quite clear that no decision has been made, that you all are taking a look at all the facts, and so they felt that that this open process was beneficial. They appreciated the council taking the time and not feeling rushed, and that the citizens had an opportunity to give their input. And I think we'll probably have even more in the future meetings. So I thought it was a very positive event, and I think most citizens left away feeling encouraged that you're taking the time to listen to them.
Thank you, Delcy, I appreciate it very much. Thanks. Good report, Bobby.
Yeah,
Continue.
and thank you. And, with that being said, this is a very critical decision that we have to make. And once again, we live in the theater of perceptions, and we want to do the right thing. And civic engagement is, I think is a really great way to bring the public to the table to help us guide our decision process. And I get an overwhelming sense, from the public, whether it be from social media or anything, that there is a strong drive to keep the project right here on campus. We have a magnificent campus, and I think there are certain unknowns that have, come up in terms of moving off campus. And, I guess it's the laws of unintended consequences of, whether confronting, whether it be traffic, a new location, and, a whole plethora of other things out there, going forward that have raised a lot of concerns. But what I got last night, and was impressed me, was the overwhelming appreciation that people have of this magnificent campus right here. And the point is, though, that I'm afraid going forward with, the other meetings, if we still have the option of off-campus on the table, it may actually be a distraction from what we're really trying to do and accomplish. And because a number of people that spoke out and, that raised some objections yesterday about going to town center or anywhere, they really highlighted the fact that they really, had a newfound respect for, this campus per se. And the point being, though, in terms of logistics and all the other problems, would it be beneficial at this point to have a discussion at this point about removing the option of going off campus from the table at this point, in terms of sending a message to the public that they're being listened to in a lot of ways, that council is being reactive to their concerns, but also in fairness to the developers who put in a ton of money, developing these things, that they can, go on to other options and, come up with a better plan in terms of what's going. And I'm also of the feeling that if we were to take the option of, going off campus and limiting the options, I really think we might actually have another turnout, because there is a little bit of a perception out there, oh, this is a done deal and, why bother going? But the point is, I think we all know at this table that it's not a done deal. But the point is, though, I think if we were to focus on those recommendations that are put out there, and we have some magnificent recommendations out there for right here that will accomplish that goal. So once again, I would welcome, and I requested that, we at least talk about it and deliberate it. And in consideration, would it be in our best interest and the public's best interest to focus right on the options on here on campus going forward from now? And I thank you for your time. And once again, I thank the council people, the vice mayor, Barbara Henley, Shannon Kane, Jim Wood, and John Moss for showing up. I think it was telling that we had 6 council members there. And I know, it's tough for other folks to get there, but it was a good representative showing that, there's a lot of care and concern about the importance of this decision. Thank you.
Barbara Henley.
Just an observation, hearing people talk about how much they love this building. I wasn't on the council then, even but I just remember that when this building was built, there was a lot of controversy, and the city council and the manager at the time took a whole lot of heat, and I think it was called the Palace.
This is George Hanbury, right?
Called what?
It was George Hanbury's Palace.
Yeah, I think I was young, but I do remember.
So times, in 50 years, this new building will be loved to wherever it is.
Bobby, I would sit back and say to you, I appreciate you putting this on the table. We do have Jim and Lewis who have been the liaisons on this, and I'm one that if there's going to be a decision that's pretty much going to be, we accept it and move on. And I'm picking up that perhaps that's the case. And Jim, I've talked to you and Lewis both. Jim, if you would share your comments.
Well, it's tough for me, and I'm obviously I don't speak for Lewis, but it's very tough for me because I'm liaison to Town Center as well as is Lewis, and I can't take away any of the great stuff that they've done at Town Center, because the development there has been spectacular. One thing I do need to say to Dave is, Dave, I asked several times for you to make the case that the building needs to be replaced or something needs to be done, and I just want to commend you and Julie and what you've done with respect to this video that I've seen like 4 times now. And the music never gets any better, I got to tell you. But it's really good that you're actually getting it out there and getting the information, because you know, being in the construction industry, I've dealt with asbestos over the years, but this is really bad in here. This is not like the kind of stuff that I've ever been involved with abating. And when I talk to people about what it is, because everybody thinks it's really easy to do, and it's really not. And as Tom mentioned on there, you're evacuating the building for the better part of 2 years to get it right. So then I take a look at the other aspect of it, moving away from the campus and splitting citizen services up. And I kind of have to go back to the whole thing about, you know, the purpose of this building is to provide excellent services for the citizen. I mean, I think that's what we need to understand. It's not the council's palace. Yeah, I've heard that from people that we just want to, you know, feather our cage and build something beautiful at Town Center and that sort of thing. And you know, most of us are down here once or maybe twice a week, and that's it. So it's not like it's our home. It feels like it sometimes after some meetings, but you know, the average citizen doesn't necessarily come to this building that often, especially when the treasurer's got his satellite offices around there. We have a lot of people that frankly go to Building 2, you know, to deal with public utilities, public works permits, things like that. And I can tell you the decentralization, at least in one of our neighboring cities in Norfolk, did not work. You used to get permits and you could go to one of 3 places to get a permit, but it didn't matter whichever place I went, the guy that I needed to see was at another one. And so that was always an issue. And so for all those reasons, I think that we need to stay here. I really do. I can tell you, looking at the various options, my personal option favorite is option 2. I think that's an attractive building. I think it does a lot for us, but I just think there's so many reasons why we need to stay here. And although Town Center is good for a lot of stuff, and the development there again has been spectacular, I just don't know that Town Center or anywhere else is the right place at this time.
Louis, would you like to add anything, because you are involved with that with him?
Number one, I concur with what Jim has said and what Bob has said. Bob has said both. I think I got out a map last night and looked at it, and to see where all of the growth is for the city and so forth. And the truth of the matter is that there's a lot of growth that is taking place out this way too.
Yeah.
And so as time goes on, this particular campus is not necessarily going to be so far out of the center of population that City Hall would serve. As far as Town Center is concerned, I think Town Center is going to continue to grow, whether we put City Hall here or not. And I think we have some property that's there that we would, if we did the proposal that came forth to us, we would be trading, which is very valuable property. And in my view, we can utilize that property for tax purposes better if we don't use it as a trade for Town Center. So I think what Bob said is what we ought to do: get this over with, and let the manager know that we want to concentrate on building the new City Hall here at the current campus.
Well, I think if I can make a suggestion to the council, 2 suggestions. The first one, I think, from what I read, I was not there, but from what I read, it does appear that the case we're making that this building needs to be replaced is being received well. But we must continue that out with the public. You know, we must make sure that, you know, if we want the public to understand, we're not making this up. This building is in bad shape and needs to be replaced. And Jim, you've just reinforced it very strongly with your comments. That also being said, I would suggest, based on the comments I've heard, and plus I thank everyone for their comments, and I respect those comments. And as such, I would suggest that we do not move forward looking for another location other than here at City Hall. And I would say that would be our position unless someone does not want that to happen. Okay, I think that's pretty clear. I think I would ask that you contact whoever we've been dealing with at Amada Hoffler before you go home tonight. I think that is.
I'll issue a formal rejection of their proposal, which I have to respond to, and this is good guidance, and I appreciate the definitive direction that you offer.
You know, sometimes we don't like the decision, but you always want a decision.
Yes.
And I think that's what I was. Shannon?
Can I ask the next steps, now that we're past this circus of whether it's gonna be here or there? We have, 3 or 4 other options that we need to choose from. So do we, as a body, decide we want option 1 or 2 or 3, so that we can then give definitive direction to Taylor to put out the RFP? Because if we put out we want option 2, then it makes it easier for those people that are bidding on the job to price it and bid it fairly. Or do we just put out, hey, we want a new city hall, we want it here? What do we do?
Well, I think we'll get to that point. I don't know we're at that point now, and I think we've got a staff that knows exactly how to go about, once we conclude what to do, then it goes out to bid.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Are we going to conclude that we want to do option 2? Or are we going to conclude we just want a city hall? What are we concluding?
Okay. Dave, help me there, and then I'll get to John and Barbara.
Well, I would tell you that, we put together a big bogey number, 50 million. We put it in the budget. We did a survey of office space requirements and what the staff growth was. I certainly did not challenge the treasurer. I certainly did not challenge the commissioner. These are elected officials. They have their offices. I think we start to now hone in on refining, exactly what that scope needs to be. We need to be have a couple more sessions with you all to bring to your attention the exact kind of the grunt work that engineers have put together behind the scenes, so that you understand how big your chambers will be, how big your informal meeting space will be, how many offices are in there, so that you can understand. We need to consider creating a service center in town center, kind of a reverse of the concept, so that we have an ability to maybe look at having some ability to take in receipts, or to maybe have a technology center up there that would possibly link down to here. It may reduce some space here in the municipal center and the size of the campus. We need to lay out for you the construction sequences necessary for whatever option we end up at, and then be able to project when this building might go into when we turn the power off and we start to deconstruct the building and then move into an abatement phase. So we have a lot more project delivery stuff that we need to share with you. This is the people's house. This is your facility, City Hall. So we have a lot more
Good answer.
facts to share with the council and council's input to get to the scope that I can issue an RFP.
Barbara Henley, then John Moss.
Well, I don't think it should be just up to the council which option we take. I think that was very beneficial last night,
That was
hearing
my
from the
question.
public.
Yeah.
And I would go ahead with the other 2 sessions.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, just change it.
I was assuming we were doing that.
I mean, I don't think it's just that
I was
they're
assuming
moving it because it's so important that the people understand
Just taking one option
what
off
has
the
to be
table.
done. We're just taking
Yeah.
that, because there are these decisions about what we're going to do here, which is so important. Because I really, so many of the comments are, well, the city is just, we're out spending a bunch of money that doesn't need to be spent. Well, I think once people saw the conditions last night and, realized the question, that maybe those folks had a better understanding of that spending. So some of these emails we're getting, are troubling to me, because they don't really put things in the right perspective, and I think we go right ahead.
Well, if you recall, the first thing I said is we must reiterate that, you know, this is something we're not making up, that this building. John?
I think a couple things. First of all, I do think we should continue with the meetings, and I think there, at some point, whenever we pick whatever the physical location is, there's a whole nother set of discussions with the public about what functionality is in what building. And I think, I mean, I saw some people's view is this building becomes something else and the council chamber is somewhere else, but I think there's a lot to be said about, you know, the historical symbolism of remaining in this building, and how about doing that and making this truly a people's house, more accessible and more things than just a council meeting. So I think that's a functionality discussion which we haven't had. But there were people in the meeting which agree with this building, but we have not yet made the compelling case, and I don't think we've discussed this case. What is the requirement for the additional 77,000 square feet? That was something that people wanted to understand. So I think they were agreeing we needed to move out. This place needed to be vacated. But there was a question about what was driving the underlying 77,000 square feet. I think there can be a good explanation for that. But I think we have to understand it so we can communicate it. And I don't think we have done that job yet. And maybe one thing I liked when I talked to some of the architects, which they were great people mostly, they ones that did the Fairfax County, if you've ever been at Fairfax County's complex, they did that complex. It's much like ours, just a bigger scale, but it's very Georgian architecture. Is that when you're designing these spaces, you're trying to maximize its flexibility for the future. So private offices are not a good thing. That's not the standard. Flexible space, collaborative spaces. So I think we need to make sure when we look at this thing that as looking at it, we're not letting the traditional thought processes of the 20th century drive a 21st century
I would sure
building.
hope that we have experts for paying that would make sure we don't make that mistake.
But remember, they're not making the decisions.
Yeah,
I know-
but recommendations, though, I mean, things
I'm
have
just mentioning
changed.
these are the important things that Barbara gets back to about public participation. That's the kind of thing I think they, you know, the show me state, show me you're being a good steward and we're thinking about those things. I think we can make that compelling case. I'm just sharing with you for those who were there. The building, I think you can convince anyone on the building, but everyone has some questions about the 77,000 square feet, and we shouldn't walk away thinking we don't have a better communication thought process to develop. I'm not saying we don't have one, Mr. City Manager. I'm just saying that's a case we have not made and articulated well to date.
Bobby D., and then we'll wind up
Yeah,
unless y'all.
and I'll just make this short. This is a tremendous opportunity, you know, for a new level of civic engagement in a lot of ways. There are a lot of questions unanswered, but let me put it this way. In talking to some of the people last night after they spoke about, okay, let's keep it here, but the public comes up with some pretty good ideas. Jim and I found that out during the public interactions on the arena deal, where the public was able to come out and give us some ideas that we didn't even think about, or problems that we didn't even think about. But the one thing I might maybe put on the table as a suggestion, and it goes to what John said about, you know, people being busy during the summer, maybe take the last August one that was scheduled for Town Center and move that to September when people are out, and have it again right here on campus. And then maybe by then, hopefully, we can whittle down a couple of the options, and then actually, you know, set up things that people can visualize where these things are gonna be.
I would suggest you just add another meeting. I'm not trying to tell you what to do.
Might be right.
I would think that'd be the better approach.
Okay.
All right, any other comments? Okay, folks. Good meeting, a lot accomplished. We'll adjourn. Thank you.